Skidoo started racing Skidoos pretty much right after the second Skidoo was built, and they've been racing these things ever since. Now, this racing history has had a huge impact on the sleds that we ride today, but this influence was probably at its greatest back in the late 70s. At the time, Bobby Donahue was one of Skidoo's factory riders on his 1978 440 Supermod. Now, here's a story about Donahue, his sled, and how he's recently reconnected with it. We first ran across this sled a few years ago at the Couchard Classic in Dorset, Ontario, and Dave Baldwin, who owned the machine at the time.
These two 440s are 2 of 12 that were manufactured. One was raced by Bobby Donahue out of Wisconsin Rapids, Minnesota, and the other sled was raced by Doug Hayes out of Camden, Wisconsin. Both factory supermod racers. This sled of Bobby Donahue's was raced at Alexandria and again at West Yellowstone. And we brought them back to life, and they're a great part of snowmobile race history, especially for Skidoo factory racers. And I'm hoping everybody's enjoying them at the show.
A good friend of mine, his name's Dave Baldwin, was a collector. Big time collector, super detail oriented guy. I seen some of his sleds and I was like, jealous. Nice stuff. Documented race sleds. And for some reason, he wanted to get out of collecting. And he approached me and he was having a tough time getting out of it. And he said, I'll only sell if someone buys everything. One shot deal, I want everything. And this sled and the number 8 Doug Hayes sled was part of the collection. So they were kind of the pinnacle of the collection, let's say. But anyways, the story on this one is Bobby Donahue is a BRP dealer in Minnesota. And we were talking one day at a dealer meeting and I said, I have your old sled. And then it was pretty much a short time after that, he got a hold of me and said, hey, you still got that sled? Yep. Do you want to sell it? Nope. Come on. I said, I don't want to sell it. So I didn't buy them to sell them, I bought them to keep them together. So, we got talking, and I thought, if there's one person in the world that really should have it, it's the guy that raced it.
This is a pretty cool day for me, and the reason for it is back 41 years ago. This is a sled that I raced when I was a factory driver for Skidoo in Belcourt, Quebec. And what made it really kind of a strange thing is I was a factory Yamaha driver prior to racing for Skidoo. And for me to be growing up with my dad being a Yamaha dealer and a motorski dealer, to grow up with those brands and now to, so to speak, go drive a competitor's machine. And I think I was like 19 years old at the time. It was a pretty tough thing to do as a young man, And I'm not so sure my dad was all that enamored with the idea, but he went along with it. And my good friend and my mentor, Dick Trickle, and my dad both said that, bottom line to it is, if Skidoo thinks you're worth that much money and Yamaha doesn't, you better ride that darn yellow Skidoo. So I did. This particular sled in 1978 in the World's Championship race in Eagle River, Wisconsin, almost won the World's Championship in my very first try on this number 11. And it was a 15-lap feature race back then, and factory players driver Steve Thorson had a big lead in the race, and I kept moving up through the ranks, and I was up to 4th, I was up to 3rd, I got up to 2nd. And with about 5 laps to go, I was in 2nd place and I was closing in on him and probably got it down to maybe 3-4 sled lengths and ended up blowing a belt with like a lap and a half to go. And it's like, man, I can't believe this just happened, So believe it or not, running 2nd place, a lap and a half to go, threw the hood off, threw the clutch guard off, burned my hands all to a pulp changing that belt, because if it was hot enough to blow, you can imagine how warm those clutches were. And they didn't have cool tools to change belts in those days. Just big old mean dad hands is all they had. And we put the belt on and threw the hood on, threw the clutch guard over the fence. Probably some spectator today has probably still got it in their garage someplace. And we went on and finished 4th. So not a bad result at the end of it, but could have been close. This is a big part of my life. It's really cool. It's nice to be united with it again. It's a part of history that I'm taking back home with me.